anything you can do, I can do better. There was a famous boxer who had the saying, "I am the greatest of all time." But it's not just our athletes and our celebrities that like to brag. Christians like to brag, especially the Christians at Corinth. When Paul is writing in his first letter to the Corinthians, there's a lot of bragging going on among the Christians. And so Paul is writing to remind them of what they are to brag about. You see, the Christians were living in Corinth, were living in a world where the Greeks saw greatness in the things of this world. They saw greatness in wisdom, how a person grew smarter and smarter in order to be better than the next guy over here. Or how when a person got into power, in a seat of power, they were considered great. Or where they came from, who their family was, that made them great. All these things the Greeks thought were great. But Paul was reminding the Christians at Rome, as they were listening to this from the outside world, that greatness isn't found in the things of this world. That life isn't found in the things of this world. There's only one thing where life is found, and that is in the cross. So Paul simply tells the Christians at Corinth, "I came preaching nothing but Christ crucified, a stumbling block for Jews and folly for those who aren't being saved." You see, the Jews, it was confusing to them, the message of the cross, because they've read and heard the teachings of Isaiah in the Old Testament, how the Messiah, the anointed one, was going to come. He was going to come and redeem them and save them. And so the Jewish people thought that when the Messiah came, he would come in power and might, like a King David figure from the Old Testament. He'd set up his empire in Jerusalem. He'd get rid of the Romans. That's what they were expecting. They weren't expecting their Messiah to be lifted up on a cross, to be killed in the most humiliating way possible. They saw this symbol, this cross, as the end of life, as the end of a person. But this is how God chose to be the source of life. It's kind of a difference how we see Christians love to wear crosses. But to some people, the cross is offensive because it's a sign of the end of life. It's the sign of death. It's the sign of execution. But it was on this very cross that Jesus, the one and only Son of God, would become the source of life for you and for me, because he would give his life. He would redeem us. He would buy us back from sin, death, and the devil. And it was on that cross he shed his blood. He paid the price so that you and I could have eternal life with him. And so Paul is telling the Corinthians in that first letter that they aren't to boast in the things that the Greeks sought wisdom in, or the Greeks saw as greatness, but they were to boast about what Jesus has done for them, how he died on the cross, how he rose from the dead, and because of that, he's given to all of us eternal life. If you'd like to know more about Paul's letter to the Corinthians, or more about Jesus and his death on the cross, please join us for worship, or you can visit us on our website at www.stmats.net.